All right, let's do it. Let's put out our thoughts on the Rittenhouse case. Today is the 19th of November, 2021. He was acquitted on all charges today. Back in 2020, when this first happened, the incident happened, we put a video up for you guys here with some initial thoughts. I've kept some notes throughout the case, and I want to share them with you. I think there's a lot to be learned here for all Americans, for all people. I think there's a ton that we can glean from it. I was out with a family member today having breakfast, and it was very easy to see how there was friction between people just talking about this case. This is one of those polarizing cases. Now, I want to share my thoughts. I'd love for you guys to share your thoughts in the comment section and push back if you don't agree. Be kind, but please do try to hear out what I'm saying. So I'm just going to read through a couple of things and then tie it all together. So self-defense. Mr. Rittenhouse used a self-defense argument. Self-defense is an affirmative defense, which means you are affirming, I did what they're saying I did. What is in question is why you needed to do it, or if you needed to do it. So first thing I want to talk about is this case is not about what the media is telling us that it's about, which if most of you see the headlines, they are all very much tainted to talk about a gunman at a social protest, when in reality what was going on was a violent riot and there was an act of self-defense that took place. So we'll come back to that. I want to talk to you guys about our emotions. It is very easy for us humans to allow our emotions to stop us from seeing all the facts. You know, in medicine, emergency medicine, in many emergency-based professions, fire, EMS, police, ER docs, nurses, etc., people that are involved in rescue, there's a common thread when it comes to looking at the problem, and it's not fixating on something based on your emotions or what you think you're seeing, but rather to take in all meaningful facts. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about how we can be better adults, better citizens, better neighbors, and all of that by not allowing our emotions to run wild, but being able to step back from a situation and parse, be able to dig through the information and facts. I want to talk about how this case should remind us about the great responsibility that comes with our Second Amendment. And I want to talk about our place in all of this. So I'm just going to dig into it. First of all, the facts of this case really have never been deeply in question. Young man from Illinois is in Kenosha, right? He's over the border in Wisconsin. He's armed with an AR-15. He's there by his admission to help protect private property. While there, he is engaged in some violence with people that ends in him defending his life, as per his testimony, with deadly force. The prosecution, what they attempted to do was suggest that this young man had an appetite, a desire to be involved in violence. Now, as I wrap up this conversation, I want to come back to that. I think as we start to look at what's happened the last couple of years in America, the riots, the protests, the destruction of things across the country up to and including our capital, we're sick of it. Us law-abiding people, us people that respect the Constitution, we're tired of it. So it's very easy to now make this person a social justice hero. Look, here's a young man that went to go do the right thing. He went to protect this community, and somebody tried to stop him. They tried to hurt him, and he had to do what he had to do. That's a narrative. But we have to remember that it's not our jobs as citizens to right every wrong. That's why we have laws. We are a nation of laws. And when we begin to allow our emotions to run wild and suggest that, well, in this instance, it's okay for this person to do some vigilante type justice. I'm not suggesting that's what Kyle did, but when we begin to form a narrative in our head that I don't care why he was there. I'm sick of what's happening in America. And so because this happened, good, those people got what they deserved. When we begin to allow that type of narrative to run wild in our head, we begin to circumvent our laws. Now, automatically, a lot of people push back as I discuss this, and they say our laws are broken, our courts are broken. You got to have faith in the system, but part of that faith is doing your part as a citizen. So a lot of folks have discussed how the criminal justice system is broken. I have multiple friends that are elected sheriffs and elected state's attorneys. For those of you in the rest of the country that have district attorneys, a state's attorneys like your district attorney. Every one of them will tell you, talk to any lawyer, we have the best criminal justice system in the world. Now you might hear that and say, you're wrong. If you are comparing it across the globe, what we have done is we have allowed the citizen, i.e. the jury, the elected judge, the elected state's attorney, and the people that they appoint to use good logic and reason to weigh facts. This is why it is so important that we vote for judges, that you vote for your state's attorney and you understand. So this state's attorney up in Wisconsin, this person, in my opinion, has a complete hatred for the Second Amendment. The entire proceedings, this person over and over and over again showed that they were biased towards anti-firearm, anti-self-defense, anti-gun, anti-constitutional, anti-freedom feelings. This person over and over again vilified a person's right to keep and bear arms and to defend themselves. It was evident over and over again with their posture, demeanor, questioning, arguments. Of course, we saw that this state's attorney, who I now will call a jackass, for picking up a legitimate firearm. You could see the bolt was in the gun. There was no type of trigger lock device on it, and he pointed it at people with his finger on the trigger. How foolish, how ignorant. But I'm not here to talk about that either. What I am here to talk about is the people of that county should immediately rally to remove this person from office. If not in the next election, through a recall. That is one of our constitutional duties. And that is something that this country is lacking. So for years, I've talked to you folks, my friends, followers, students, etc., about how much I believe in the voting process. And it's very easy in this platform to see people push back. Mick, it's all rigged. Well, look what just went down in Virginia. Now, I also like to look at facts. So Virginia, in this last election, got a new governor, a pro-firearm, pro-Second Amendment, pro-constitutional governor, and lieutenant governor, which I think is fantastic. I believe they have their first black lieutenant governor, and that woman seems awesome. So we look at that and we say, yes, the people spoke. But if you look at the historical data of Virginia as a commonwealth, as a state, every election cycle, pretty much, they get a new governor. The people of Virginia just don't like to keep governors around. So I want to understand, we go back to this, let's parse facts. Let's look at data before we just allow our emotions to run wild. In Virginia, the people spoke. They put a new governor in. We do have solid election processes. We do have elections that have been tarnished through criminal behavior. It is our job, our duty to stop that. And this is where I think we begin to get lost. Let's go take it back to Kyle. Here's a young man. I can't speak for him. I don't know him. I've never met him. This whole thing took place less than 30 miles from our home. So it's kind of like a hot topic around here as it is across the country. A young man, maybe that's sick of seeing what's going on. Maybe that feels he has a call to do something right for the country. Doesn't mean that he has a right to use lethal force for no reason. And here is where it becomes problematic. We now have the media saying because of this acquittal, people like you and me are going to feel that we can just go use firearms to defend stuff during social protests. Let's talk about the righteous use of lethal force. Righteous meaning right, on the right side of law. In order for any of us in any of the 50 states to use lethal force, you or I must be able to articulate to judge, to jury, to a jury of our peers that they too, or that another reasonable person could have looked at our situation, could have looked at what we did and said, you know what? I understand why they did that. I know it might have not been the best thing to do, but I can understand that a prudent person would do that. So now as we draw into question Kyle's actions that evening, the problem is we want to look at the totality. Why is he there? Did he need to be there? Why was he armed? Did he need to be armed? And that is where the problem starts. We don't use lethal force to protect stuff. We use lethal force, or any force, commensurate, meaning equal. If you're punching me, I don't shoot you. If you're yelling at me, I don't punch you. We use force commensurate, equal to the force applied to us, enough that we can stop it to protect ourselves or other innocent life. In this situation, a jury said, by a great preponderance of evidence, we believe that you felt in this moment that you were in danger of death or great bodily harm. As such, we understand that your affirmative defense of self-defense was justified. And we understand that another person put in the same situation, knowing, this is all important, knowing what you knew at the time. This is interesting. We talked about this last year, and we'll come right back to the knowing what you knew at the time. So the prosecutor wanted to bring up in this case some stuff that Kyle had put on the internet weeks before. It's not admissible. The defense wanted to bring to the jury's attention that one of the deceased had a criminal record. Not admissible. Why? Because Kyle did not know in that moment that that person had a prior criminal record. We are judged by what we knew at the time, and that's important. Let's bring this full circle. Our right to keep and bear arms is a sacred right that most of the world does not understand or appreciate. I'm going to add something here. Right now we have a sickness. We have a sickness in this country where we no longer as a people protect and defend laws. Not just life, but laws. Our laws are important. We easily jump to concepts of corruption and evil. That's always has been and always will be the case. But when good people like you and me pay attention and we continue to elect people that respect and uphold the Constitution and continue to remove people that do not, we continue to win. The scales continue to fall on the side of right. A republic like ours requires constant attention. It is like a garden. As soon as you begin to stop tending it, watering it, weeds will sprout up, the garden will fail. Members of this republic, us, the citizens, must be out in that garden, not once a week, not once a month, not just when it's time to vote, but daily. The right to keep and bear arms not only can be stripped away from us, but it may at some point when people like us stop continuing to do what is necessary to keep it intact. But you know what? It's not really about guns. It never has been about guns. What it is really about is the individual, yours and mine, our right to defend life up to and including against the tyranny of government and governments. Our founders understood that. And right now we are lacking young men and young women in this country who will do the things the founders did. I'm not talking about violence. I'm talking about the hard work. Go read about John Adams and men like him. John Adams especially gave up most of the fruitful years of his life working on things that built this great republic. And he knew and understood the gift that he was giving to us, but he did it with a heart of love and service. That's heavy. Yet we don't have that now. It's about me. It's about what can I get. So in some ways, while I do not think Kyle's choice to go to Wisconsin armed to protect property was the best choice, I do respect the young man's opinion to do what he felt was right. Now, here's the next part. We live and die by our choices. If we are going to live in this great republic that allows us the freedom to live free, to do things like protect a store during a riot, to travel unfettered around the country, to start businesses, raise families, and do all the things we do, we have to be willing to pay the price for the consequences of our actions. In this case, this young man's life is forever altered. It's forever altered, as these hugely sensationalized cases always are. The people that are in these cases, their lives are forever altered. You think about when this young man 5 years from now applies for a job and he writes his name, Kyle Rittenhouse, on the job application. Whoever is there will instantly know you're the gentleman that was involved in that. That's heavy. There is a load that he will carry forever because of his choice. So one of the founding core principles of CarryTrainer is this: to live a long and full life. You can live a long life locked up in jail. You get 3 square meals a day. You got heat. You got a bed. You got a roof. You got everything you need to live, right? Except you're confined. Our choices, we have to own them, and our choices should be driven. Our choices should be driven by our desire to live a long and full life. Self-defense is our right. It always has been, and it always will be, no matter what judge, jury, or lawmaking body tries to take it away. It is your right. Nature is conspiring against every one of us every day to end us. There is organisms in the dirt whose whole existence is to eat your and my flesh. It's my job and yours to stay away from those organisms as long as possible. And in that right to self-defense, every living creature is innately born with it. Not only born with the desire to try to continue living as long as possible, but the right to do it. And nature is a nasty game. We men, we humans, mankind have created and codified laws and created society so that we can live as peaceably as possible, but we are still organisms fighting to survive. We have to remember that our actions have far-reaching consequences. On a very simple level, you take what happened that evening. If you subtract why Kyle was in Wisconsin and why those other people were there, subtract it. Subtract all of it. And for a moment in time, you put those organisms, those people together where they were colliding. And that is what this case is really about. Yes, it matters why he was there. Yes, it matters why they were there. But in the moment, true self-defense says if this person has a lawful right to be in this place, and this person has a lawful right to be in this place, and there's some type of clash that takes place where life and limb are at risk, now righteous self-defense can come into play. And in that moment, that young man felt that he was in fear of death or great bodily harm and acted accordingly. I think that crowd was lucky that errant rounds did not strike other people and injure them. I think that some of the people that attacked him were lucky. The gentleman that was shot in the arm, I think he was lucky that he did not end up with a greater level of damage to his body. But I also think that you and I, the people, should look back and learn from these situations. What led up to this? Is rioting right? No. Call upon your mayors, your city council, your governor, your county boards, your sheriff to do their job and uphold the law. We are allowed to assemble peaceably. This is Constitution 101. When people are tearing up our cities and those that are elected to uphold the laws do not do their job, who will? Who will stand in that gap and stop those things from happening? I'm not going to let my town be tore up. Will you let yours? But the flip side is, are you willing to deal with the fallout, the consequences? Are you willing to have your face in the paper, in the courts, on the TV, on the internet for weeks and months because of your choices? And therein lies the truth. We want liberty. We want this republic to exist, but what price are you willing to pay? And in some senses, maybe this young man is a hero. Maybe he is because he did what he felt he should do to uphold the safety of a community. I'm not commenting on how I feel about it because I don't know what lies in his heart. But how different is that from the men that stopped the redcoats? Is it much different? And I'm not making the comparison. I'm asking you to think about that. What is a true defense of liberty but stopping those who wish to harm others, those who wish to impose their will? You know what? When a mob tears a city up, that is tyranny. That is terrorism. Who will stand in the gap to stop it? When your sheriff, when your police force, when your mayor, your city council, etc., do nothing, who will? These decisions will have to be made by the individual in the moment on what they are willing to do, but do understand that there is always a price to pay. We do not live in the Old West, and even then there was a price to pay, and oftentimes it was a quick noose or being shot in the face. There is consequences for our actions. Do understand that that firearm that you have at home that you carry on you carries a grave amount of responsibility, and your choice to deploy it, to bring it out into the world and send lead or projectiles flying into other human flesh is something that you cannot take back, and you had better be on the side of right. While this young man was acquitted, it could have gone the other way with a few jurors. That's heavy. Do know that if you get yourself involved in a situation like that, your actions are going to be dug through ad nauseum. People are going to tear your social media apart. The police are going to take your telephone and they are going to, against your will, download everything off of it. They are going to subpoena records from things like your Twitter account, your Facebook account, etc. They're going to go to those companies and subpoena things that you think you deleted. They're going to look for anything and anybody that can hang you up. Live righteously. Be careful of the things that you say, not to hide your actions, but live in a manner that if you ever must use righteous force, somebody will look at you and they say, oh, Bob, Carol, yeah, I know that person. They would never use force like that unless they had to. That person was trained. That person respected life. That person respected the sacred oath of our Constitution that we have amongst ourselves. See, if you live in that manner, it may help when you are questioned. It may help when somebody looks into your life. We're never looking to use force. We're looking to live a long, full life. Understand that places and spaces that you put yourself in, it matters. And if you put yourself into a pickle that you have to fight your way out of, while you may have been justified in the moment, that action where the human conflict took place, a jury may wonder what the hell you were doing there. They may wonder, did he need to be? Did she need to be? Part of self-defense is not just the fight. It's what leads up to and what's after. Not a sales pitch. I use CCW Safe. They didn't ask me to do this. That's the company that I recommend. There's a link on our website on CarryTrainer for CCW Safe. Just thinking about this, do you know what kind of legal fees a case like this would amass? Millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. I'd check out CCW Safe. Have you made a will? This is not me being morbid, but have you made a will for your family? Part of self-defense to me, part of living a long, full life is knowing if something happens to me, my family's taken care of. Not because I've left them a pile of money, but I don't want them to have to dig through a pile of papers that I have in a drawer somewhere and figure it out. Talk to a lawyer. Get a will put together. Do you have some life insurance? Not being morbid, but we're all going to die. Self-defense is doing the right things so that we can live that long, full life. I'm glad that things worked out for Rittenhouse. I'm hoping that today cities are not torn up again. I'm hoping that the elected law enforcement officials and elected leaders in communities start to do their frickin' jobs and stop cities from being torn up. I hope that you guys take your responsibility in this republic serious and understand that every one of us has a duty. We have a duty to protect and uphold the Constitution, not because you're in the military, not because you're a cop, but because this republic is made up of its citizens. We, the people, are the members of this republic. We are not subjects. We are not subservient to a federal government. In fact, our federal government can kiss my ass in a lot of places. Our Constitution is the highest letter of the law. It always has been and it always will be until we, the people, give up that right. We, the people, by the people, and for the people matters. We have to hold that in our hearts, though, and live accordingly. This is Mickey with CarryTrainer.com. I do believe that justice was served today. I do believe that there is a price to pay for every one of our actions, and it is incumbent upon us to choose accordingly. Life is nothing but choices. Be well, don't be dickheads. Tell somebody that you love them. Bye now.